Alright guys, welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today we're going to be looking at the weekday games in Week 7. We got, 7 games here on the slate from Tuesday to Friday. Mid-season MAC, they like to play on those early days in the week. So, kicking this episode out here early in the week for you. Appalachian State and Louisiana kick things off. Appalachian State, 5.5 spread favorite now. I think it was 3 earlier in the afternoon. It's really moved up, and I understand why. You look at this Appalachian State offense. Chase Bryce, he's been really good, actually. Last year, remember at Duke, he turned the ball over a ridiculous amount of times. One of the nation leaders in interceptions. Never threw the ball this effective and this efficient at Appalachian State, that is. Even with Zach Thomas, he never did this. He's averaging 250 yards a game, completing a good percentage, about 65%. It's been very solid. He has a nice tree of receivers he's working with, Malik Williams, Corey Sutton, Thomas Hennigan. They all get 4+ receptions a game. They're all getting extensive work. And Appalachian State, they've always had great balance. Their great running game's not averaging as much as it did a season ago. They averaged like 265 last year, down to about 197 this year. But in return, they have gained that more impactful balance. Nate Noel, this is one of my favorite backfields coming into the year. Nate Noel has emerged as the main go-to guy, I guess you could say, 102 yards per game. Cameron Peoples not far behind, though. He's a touchdown machine. 8 already on the year. Compared to Noel, only has 1. Peoples loves to get those red zone carries. He's averaging about 88 yards per game himself. Turning the ball over has been an issue, though. So we'll see how they can do in this game. You can't give away the ball on the road against Louisiana Lafayette. The Raging Cajuns, though, they have a pretty sluggish run defense. Week 1, everyone picked them to beat Texas. The reason I didn't, this run defense is not very good, and it's continued from 2020 till now. 171 yards per game allowed. They're pretty inconsistent. Outside of Zion Hill on the defensive line, there's no one else that's really a standout. They're not incredibly active. Good thing for them, though, they're 4th in the conference in pass defense. Secondary hasn't exactly been great, though, despite the numbers. They do have that great safety duo in Percy Butler, Blake Trahan. They should be able to cover up the deep ball in this one, but simple routes, curls, and slants, will they be able to cover up those on the edge? It's going to be the real question, because Appalachian State, it's not a complex offense by any means. That's what they love to do. They get the ball to their guys. Hennigan, he'll just tear you up on those curls, those comeback routes. He's really good at doing that. That's how they play ball. That's how they throw the ball. They get close to the sticks, and then they'll beat you down with the run. Levi Lewis for Louisiana Lafayette, he's been pretty terrible. Last week was awful, 9 for 20, 49 yards against South Alabama. His passing attack has regressed since Lewis's first year. Only 5 pass plays of 30-plus yards. That's towards the bottom of the country. They're not going to get an easy matchup by any means. Sean Jolly and Appalachian State, these guys were number 1 in completion rate a season ago. Good start this year, 56% allowed, not quite the same number as last year. It's still a very impressive mark. They give about 250 a game, so they give up a fair amount of big plays. I'll give them that, but they don't really have to worry about this here against Levi Lewis in this passing attack. These guys don't throw it deep very effectively at all. At Appalachian State, they limit the efficiency. Dante Fleming, though, he stepped up this year as a freshman. Kyron Lacey, not so much. Kind of expected him to break out last year after he had, 28 receptions, 400 yards. He was very good for them last year. Not so much this year. He's still their second leading pass catcher, but he's not really emerged like we kind of expected him to. Really good offensive line, though. Osiris Torrance, about him. Shane Vaught. These guys are really good. This offensive line was one of my top 10 coming into the year. They've played good. The running game's not been exactly solid, though. Cam Smith hasn't broke out at running back. He's their 3rd leading rusher, actually. They split between 3 different backs, though. They get plenty of guys involved, but they're not as dynamic as they were with Elijah Mitchell and whatnot. So running game really struggling. Their passing game downfield's not great. Playing Appalachian State defense, as we mentioned, limit the efficiency. They get into the backfield a good amount, too. DeMarco Jackson, he's already got 10.5 tackles for loss, 5 QB hurries. This guy's just got a high motor, always chasing the ball carrier. Demetrius Taylor off the edge. Nick Hampton, they've been very serviceable against the run as well. Demetrius Taylor hasn't exactly replicated what he did last year. Still a very reliable player for them off the defensive end. Again, serviceable against the run. They held Miami to under 200 yards. Of course, Miami, they're not great at running the ball, but that's still an FBS opponent. And the dynamic duo they had with Cam Harris and De'Eric King it's a tough ask for anybody to contain. They did it pretty admirably. They won't have that Louisiana won't have that duo here. I think being at home gives them a bit of an edge, but Appalachian State, they should cover. I think they're going to run the ball well. I think they're going to have some big pass plays. I don't think this Raging Cajun offense is going to do much. I'm going to take 21-14 Appalachian State. I really don't see a scenario, unless App State turns the ball over a lot, where Louisiana wins this game. So I see why that spread. If I'm right and the spread moved 2 points this afternoon, I think that's what happened. I totally understand it. Looking at Navy, 1-4, they head to take on Memphis, 10.5-point dogs. Navy have been playing better ball over the last 2 weeks, but they're still not very good. They can't run the ball well. They did against UCF in that win, but it's not a good defense. So, that makes a little bit of sense. Stayed within 7 versus SMU. They forced 2 turnovers, so they were able to stay in that game. Tanner Mordecai, he was very good against them, though. It's kind of a below-average pass defense for Navy. They face a similar style of offense here. Seth Hennigan, the freshman for the Tigers, has been phenomenal. 323 yards per game, 14-3 TD to interception ratio. Calvin Austin, one of the nation's top players. He's been so good for them, a receiver. All around, really, Austin, he's going to be tough for Navy to contain. Brandon Thomas, less than 90 yards in 4 straight. He's still doing good on a yards per carry basis. He's an explosive runner. You can let him rip. They've kind of folded a little bit over the last couple of weeks, so they're not running the ball as effectively. Navy, 14 touchdowns allowed on the ground. It's one of the nation's worst marks. They've been solid against the run, though, 3.5 yards per carry. Getting good work out of Diego Fago, Nicholas Straw. All around Navy, they're still trying to reel it in. They've not been great the last couple of years. And again, this is another one. They can't run the ball like they want to. Nowhere near. Xavier Arline, I expected better things from him last year. I haven't watched a lot of Navy football, but last year the biggest problem is, the QB has to be good. Lost Malcolm Perry, lost that speed, lost the decision-making as well. It's still kind of plaguing them. And they've not ran the ball well whatsoever. I think for Memphis, they're going to have probably plenty of success slowing down the run. J.J. Russell, Xavier Collins at linebacker. These guys are pretty solid. The Memphis defense is nothing to bow your head about. It's nothing great. But this was a 10-7 game last year. Complete defensive showing. I think Memphis will slow down the run again this year. I think they're going to win this one 34-20. It was very shocking last year to see only 17 total points. I think Memphis will cover in this game. I think Navy will play them a little bit closer. They've been playing better ball overall, though. Still kind of uncertain how this running game will perform. I'm going to take Memphis, though. I think their passing attack is going to have plenty of success. I think Barron and Thomas is going to rip off a run or two. But Navy, they play with plenty of toughness and aggression. So if it's closer, I wouldn't be shocked. But I do think Memphis will have plenty of success here in this game. And I think they're going to win this one 34-20. Also on Thursday, starting at 7:30, I didn't mention that about the Navy game. They both start at the same time. Georgia Southern, 2-4, travels to take on South Alabama. 3-point dogs against the 3-2 Jaguars. GSU, they're ranked dead last in pass defense. Jake Bentley, he's never really been great in his career. It's kind of disappointing to see how his career has turned out. From South Carolina to Utah for like 2 games, then bolted. He's been solid, pretty accurate. He's been effective as well. When you have Jalen Tolbert at pass catcher, it's kind of easy to be good, 100-plus a game for him. He's one of the nation's best at his position. You flip the script to GSU's offense, Gerald Green, Logan Wright. They got a pretty good running game, around 250 a game. I think it's higher than that. They're playing a very stiff Jag defense, Jamal Brooks, Kevias Thomas. These guys are first-ranked third-down defense. I really like those 2 playmakers I just mentioned. The defense has struggled a tad bit, though, versus the run the last 2 weeks. I think they're going to be able to stack the box here against Georgia Southern. Justin Tomlin, he's not been good through the air. 0 touchdowns, 4 picks, under a 50% completion rate. They just have a 0 passing game at all. Against these option attacks, you can't just load the box. It doesn't always work like that. But I think here they're going to be able to have enough leverage. I think they're going to be able to slow down this run game a bit. And Georgia Southern won't have a response through the air. This isn't an elite defense by any means. So I think they're going to score some points, not a lot. And, of course, they've been getting a little bit better themselves over the last couple of weeks. Against Troy, very good defense they played last week. They had Tomlin, that is, he had 3 interceptions. And they still had 24 points, lost by 3 on the road to Troy. That's a very impressive performance. That's a good football team for them to be able to do that. That's a notch in my book. That's really good. But, again, this third-down defense is too good. That's where teams like this, they're on the option live or die. I think it's going to be too tough for them to overcome. Again, the bad passing attack against the secondary, not good. They got some ball hawks, Trey Young, Darrell Luther. They've recorded a pick, the Jags that is, in all but one game this year. I think Tolbert in his passing games has had some success. I picked 37-24 South Alabama. I could totally be wrong on this, though. I just think this pass defense is just not good, and you're going against this guy. It's going to be a long day. But they've been impressive the last couple weeks ever since they made the change and fired Chad Lunsford. So Georgia Southern could probably pull out a shocker in this one, but I don't think so. The last 3 weeks they've been playing good football, though. We'll give them that. You'll get Marshall and North Texas here to kick off the Friday night at 7 on CBS. And high-flying attack for Marshall ever since they made the change of head coach to Charles Huff. It's been a different ball game. Grant Wells always really struggling. Last year he threw a bunch of interceptions at the end of the year after not having any in his first couple of games. Still doing it. 8 touchdowns, 9 picks. So he's still got the turnover issue. But the good news is they're throwing the ball very well, very effectively. 333 yards per game. Very deep receiving core. Corey Gamage, Xavier Gaines are the standouts, of course. They get plenty of guys involved. That includes Rasheen Ali at running back. 13 total touchdowns on the year. 100-plus all-purpose yards a game. They'll get him involved on kicks as a pass catcher, as a runner. He's a really good ball player. This UNT defense, they're not very good in the open field. The defense is slightly better than last year, but guess what? They still allow 6.1 yards per play, so they don't really do anything well. They're pretty bad against the run. K.D. Davis, though, linebacker, having a great season. Leads them in tackles with 46, tackles for loss with 10, a couple sacks. He leads them in all those categories, but that's it. That's really the only playmaker. I do like what they have on offense in DeAndre Torrey, 5'7" guy. He runs with plenty of athleticism. But the passing game has really fell off since Jason Bean left and Jalen Guyton last year. Seth Luttrell really struggling to get these guys to play at a high level. Only 200 yards passing twice this year. And those were games where they played from behind. Last week against Missouri, and then another one against SMU. Before that, under 100 yards in back-to-back games. They've went back and forth between Jace Ruder, Austin Ani, who's, I think, 28 years old. Marshall, though, one of the nation's worst run defenses. They get to the backfield a good bit, though. When they don't, they're getting grinded down. I like Eli Neal and Charlie Jones at linebacker. They got a nice little rotation at defensive line. Their best player is probably Stephen Gilmore at corner. I see a 45-21 ball game here. I think DeAndre Torrey's going to have a good night. But the passing game is just not good whatsoever. I don't really know what to say about them. Luttrell is really struggling right now. They lost a lot of talent. They lost 2 quarterbacks, too, I think. Yeah, they lost 2 quarterbacks, I think, last year. And this Marshall offense, I really like it. Despite the turnovers, very solid. So I'm going to pick 45-20 Marshall. Clemson, they go on the road to the Carrier Dome. The line's all the way up to 14. And I understand why. Syracuse, I picked them to beat Wake Forest last year. Very resilient effort. They almost did that. But they don't have a passing game. Garrett Schrader has been so good with his legs. Taj Harris just transferred, so it even gets worse. Anthony Queen is a good player, but they don't have a passing game at all. I think they're dead last in the ACC in yards per game throwing. They run the ball very well. Sean Tucker and, like I just said, Schrader, an impressive player. He's so aggressive. He has a lot of heart, so you can respect it. But Clemson, they just lower the boom on the running game. Brian Bresee out for the year for torn ACL. Tyler Davis, I'm not sure the extensiveness on his injury. I'm not sure if he'll be back for this game or not. They still got plenty of depth in the front seven. Miles Murphy's one of those guys. James Skalski's going to be playing big. So they're just going to pretty much just isolate this offense. They're not going to be any good whatsoever because they're going to be so physical at the line of scrimmage. They're going to limit this running game. So understand the 14-point spread. But Syracuse has a defense of their own, that is. They're not playing a very good offense. We'll get to that in a minute. But Michael Jones at linebacker, he's been so big for them. So is Cody Rochelle coming off the edge. These guys are playing hard. They have been so good against the run this year. Other than the Florida State game, other than that, they've been pretty solid. Wake Forest couldn't even hit 100 yards. They couldn't even hit the century mark last week. Really like this defense. And then the Clemson offense. Not efficient at all. Not effective. DJ Ugalagoli has not been very good whatsoever. Still struggling for chemistry with his receivers. Joseph Nagata, Justin Ross, they're plenty capable. E.J. Williams, I know he's been injured. I'm not sure if he'll come back. I know he was out for a couple weeks. This might be a game where he returns. I have not looked at the injury report, so I apologize. But they got the offense going a little bit against Boston College. I think they ran for 200+. Kobe Pace, has really emerged in that role. Lynn Dixon, if you didn't know, he transferred out a couple weeks ago. Kind of disappointing to see that. Will Shipley, another one of those guys who was injured. So they were able to get their running game going and get a bit. They're playing a tough defense here. I'm going to pick them to win. Like the Boston College game, I picked Clemson to win. But I didn't give a score. I'm not going to give a score here. I'm very in favor of that plus 14, especially being at home in the Carrier Dome. So if I had to, bet a large sum of money on the spread, I would bet the plus 14 with Syracuse. Their defense is not a slouch unit whatsoever. So I'm going to pick Clemson to win this game, but it could be much closer than they think. I just think their offense is going to completely get stonewalled because they don't have a passing attack, and Clemson's going to load up. And they don't have to load up either. They can just send 4, and they'll be able to slow down Sean Tucker in this running game. So don't be shocked if Syracuse wins, but Clemson should be able to win this. You look at Cal. They travel to Oregon, 10:30 p.m. on that Friday night, 13.5-point underdogs. Their only win has come over an FBS school. They've played an FCS school, that is. 3 one-score games, though. It's been weird for Cal. Garbers, he's been pretty good. It wasn't in the game 2 weeks ago against Washington State. He's pretty bad in that game. They've been running the ball pretty well. Nothing eye-popping, but Damian Moore, he's been a solid runner. Chase Garbers has been effective with his legs. The offensive line's been pretty good, though. I like what they've been doing there. You flip to their defense, though. This is usually Justin Wilcox, usually fields a really good unit. And it's still a pretty solid unit, but their pass defense has been a bit of a letdown. We got Josh Drayden coming back. The 2 safeties, and Elijah Hicks, Daniel Scott, and they've just not been very good against the pass. Losing Keanu Dang, our linebacker, him being out has really hurt them. Other than the TCU game where Zach Evans has absolutely dismantled them, they're good against the run. J.H. Tevis, Cam Good coming off the edge. They've been good. Overall, they're not great at forcing negative plays. Good at stopping running backs on their tracks. I feel like Oregon's going to probably get back to its ways on offense with Travis Dye at running back. C.J. Vidal now out for the season. So you're going to see somebody step up, whether that be Trey Brendan, Byron Cardwell, Sean Dollars, if he's healthy, he'll be there. So it'll be interesting. This is going to be a good game to see who's going to step up at number 2. You're going to see those carries really dished out around, I think. The downfield passing game, though, has been the biggest problem. They were really good against Ohio State. They weren't efficient, but they were effective. Joe Moore called a great game that afternoon, but overall they've not been playing to their capability. They're incredibly deep at receiver. One of the nation's deepest receiving cores with all they have, Johnny Johnson, Jalen Redd. These guys are really good, but they've not been showing it on the field. So Anthony Brown, I don't know how much longer he's got at starting quarterback last week. They ran the ball well, but their passing game was just really iffy. So Oregon, they're plenty capable too. They showed you against Ohio State what they're capable of. Still, though, downfield passing was a concern in that game, even though they really worked the middle of the field very well. Man coverage just kind of got burned for Ohio State in that game. But other than that, they're still finding their footing, I think, with the passing game. Ty Thompson might start seeing some touches under center, and I think they could really benefit this offense, The Ducks defense, Kayvon Thibodeau, he'll be out. Remember that targeting call in that final drive? There was a complete nightmare when they lost to Stanford. He was ejected for targeting on that final few minutes. Brandon Swinson, he might be out. If he's not there, then Cal could really have some success. Those are the only 2 pass rushers they really have. They've been getting guys like Ware Hudson, that defensive tackle, stepping up. They got a nice little interior pass rush. But other than that, the secondary's not playing great. They had 5 picks against Arizona. Great job. Other than that, they've not been good. They're talented, though. Michael Wright, very good in press. Verone McKinley, he can play in the box. He can play back in coverage. But I think if they don't have those 2 pass rushers, with how many big plays they've been giving up in the secondary, Javon Clark could have a field day. I think Keoka Crawford needs to get more involved. I think Oregon is 13.5 if it stays that way. I think they'll win 34-20. I'd pick them to cover, but just barely. I think this is a very interesting game. I think the biggest question mark for Oregon, though, if they don't have those 2 pass rushers, they could be in trouble, at least for the first half until KT comes back. But this is a very interesting game for Oregon. Them being at home is a big advantage. They've had a week off, too. I think Cristobal's going to have these guys balling. They're going to be ready. Still plenty of question marks with this football team, though. In the last game of the night, San Diego State, the 24th ranked Aztecs, travel to San Jose State. Underrated game. It's a late game. A lot of people probably won't catch it, but I think this is a potential upset right here. SJSU giving up 230 yards a game. Only one INT, though, in the secondary. So, they've been a pretty average pass defense. They don't have playmaking. On the other hand, the Aztecs, 1 interception in each game so far. They only allowed a completion percentage of 60% once this year, and that was the season opener. These guys are so good on defense. Taylor Hawkins at corner has been really impressive this year. He's questionable for this game. That could be big. You look at the matchup they have. It's not a great passing attack like it was last year. Nick Starkel's kind of struggling, only completing 50%. 6-5 TD to INT ratio. Losing Bailey Gay the year, Trey Walker really hurt them because their passing attack was so impressive last year. So you expected a drop off. You also expected Derek to see a tight end to step up. He's been doing that. Big year so far, averaging 17 yards per catch. Second on the team with the 15 receptions. I like this kid. Coming in the year, I was high on him. 6'4", 235. Great athleticism. He's got nice hands. He's a big-time red zone target. Look at running back. They have a good run until Isaiah Hamilton. He's stepped up a receiver. Tyler Nevins. He's a tough runner. 231. His offensive line's playing good. They're not one-dimensional, but they don't have a crushing running game either. They can get you about 120 yards a game. That's kind of their cap. Not a very high ceiling. They're playing defense, though. 6th in FBS at 270 yards per game. Great pass rush. Caden McDonald, Cam Thomas off the edge. Jonah Tavai, he's a 295-pound defensive tackle. These guys really penetrate well. They use leverage exceptionally great. Run defense has been insane. Of course, their schedule hasn't been straight, or hasn't been great, but it's insane. They've only allowed 70 yards. The most yards they've allowed on the ground this year, 70. That was against Utah. They really covered those guys up. They are just really good right now. Most they've allowed in a game, like I said, 70 yards. One of the biggest X factors in this game is one-dimensional offense for the Aztecs. They don't throw the ball well at all. It's terrible. Jordan Brookshire's not been good. Logan Johnson. As usual, this passing game is not good at all. They're running the ball like we're used to seeing. Greg Bell, 520, 5 scores in 5 games. That zone split they run is just so beautiful. But they're playing a very aggressive front seven. Has size. They have leadership. They have veterans. Cade Hall has not been great as a pass rusher. He had 10 sacks a year ago, and he's not been great this year. Him and Violamo Fiocco. Great. Those are the best 2 defensive linemen, but they don't need a pass rush in this game. You're playing a passing attack that's not great at all. They don't need to be good at running the passer. That's the biggest reason I think the Spartans can win this game, because they have a great front seven. I think they're going to be up for the challenge of slowing this running game down. 8-point underdogs. Only reason I'm not picking the upset is because they're 129th in FBS in turnover margin. I just mentioned the 5 picks Starkles had. They fumbled it more times than that this year. They just turn the ball over a lot. When you're playing this defense, you're destined to turn the ball over at least twice, I think. You're going to set them up for some short fields. I'm going to pick 24-16 Aztecs, but I think the Spartans can definitely win this game if they protect the ball, because I think this front seven is really up for the task of slowing down Greg Bell in this offense. We'll see what happens. I think this will be an interesting game to watch. That's going to wrap everything up for this game, for this preview. Make sure you guys subscribe, leave a like, comment who you think is going to be the winners, and see you next time.